What's up? It's the Atlanta Logic Trainer, and today I wanted to do a quick video demonstrating how to use Maschine as a customized controller for Logic. Some of you may have noticed in another one of my videos on a workflow with Logic and Maschine that I was using the transport on Maschine to control Logic's playback, rewind, fast forward, record, and a few other features. So I wanted to make a quick video, show you how I set that up and how you can set yours up to control your Logic also. First thing you're going to need to do is go to your applications folder and then go down to your native instruments folder within the applications, and you're going to open up this folder called controller editor that's inside the native instruments folder, and inside there you'll see a software called controller editor. When you open up the controller editor software, you'll get to a GUI that looks like this. This screen right here is basically showing you all of the continuous controller messages that are being sent from all of the knobs, pads, buttons on your Maschine device. Now remember, Maschine, when you use it in standalone or even as a plug-in inside of Logic, by default you're actually in the standard mode, which is basically the mode I just switched it to. And in this mode, Maschine controls and it works perfectly. It's mapped to work perfectly with the Maschine software. Now in my other videos in the workflow that I've been demonstrating, I've been using Maschine as a MIDI controller to control Maschine and also to control Logic. So to get to that mode, you have to hold down Shift and Control, and when you do so, the screen changes in your Maschine, and you'll have different information up here that allow you to customize the device. It comes pre-installed with several templates already set to work with different applications like Battery, Massive, Pro 53, Tractor Pro, and then you have general MIDI drums, you have Mackie control, and the ability to control Ableton Live. We want to start here with the new template, and from the new template we're going to create another template that we're going to work with Logic Pro. Once we get here, the main things that we're going to change are going to be this transport area down here. We're not going to change the pads, even though you can set these buttons to do whatever you want, but I'm going to leave my pads as they are. In the examples that I've been showing in my workflow with Maschine, when I go to controller mode, it already by default goes to bank E, and in bank E these pads starting with pad 1 start to control MIDI note C3 all the way up to D sharp 4, and that's just kind of been the default and how I've been programming Maschine to respond inside of the software. So I'm going to leave that as it is, and we're going to concentrate on these buttons here, and I'm also going to use a couple of these buttons over here. First thing I'm going to do is this restart button, this button here on the Maschine. I'm going to make that button act as the return button on my keyboard, and in Logic when you hit return on your keyboard, it stops playback and it also take your playback back to bar 1. So I'm going to double click on the where it says CC104, that's the continuous controller information that it's sending out, and I'm just going to rename it to return. Alright, and once I do that, the minute I double clicked on that, I don't know if you noticed it or not, but this area over here switched from templates to assignments, and it tells you the name of what it's going to do, and then you have all of these things that you can do, like what type of button is it. By default it's a control change button, and that's where we want to leave it, but I just want to show you all of these other options down here, from poly pressure to channel pressure, pitch bend, start, stop, a lot of different stuff. But we're going to leave it as a control change. That's what we're going to pretty much be using for all of them. And then it has the MIDI channel that it's going to be sending information out on. It says MIDI channel 1. We're going to change it from MIDI channel 1 just because in Logic a lot of the shortcuts in Logic respond to channel 1 already. So instead of having to figure out some of these, the number of this continuous controller information that it sends out in channel 1 is already being used on a lot of stuff. So I'm just going to go to channel 16 because for the most part I found that it's not pre-programmed to use channel 16 already. So I'm going to type in 16 here. And then as far as the number, I'm going to use higher numbers. You can use anything from 1 to 127. And I'm going to start with 121. So it's going to send continuous controller number 121 on channel 16. The mode of the button, I don't want it to be a toggle button. I actually want it to be a trigger button. And this is basically the format we're going to use for all of these. Control change, channel 16, we're going to use numbers higher than, for the most part, higher than 120. I think we're going to end up using 118 all the way up through 127. We're going to use trigger mode, and then we're going to leave the value at 127, LED on for MIDI in, and action on down, the same on all of them. So this button is straight. Then I'm going to go to the next button here. And on this button, I'm going to set this button to be rewind. So I'm going to double click, type in rewind, and then over here I'm going to go make those same settings. Leave it at controller change, set the channel to 16. This is going to be 122, and trigger. And now you can select these buttons also by hitting the button on your controller. So that's what I'm going to do this time. Hit this button, and now it goes to the arrow pointing to the right, and we're going to make that fast forward. And here I'm going to change the type. Well, I'm going to leave the type at controller change. Channel 16. Channel number, continuous controller number, we're going to be 123 here, and trigger. I'm going to come back to this button in a second. Let's go here to the play button. And I'm going to make that do actually what it says, which is play. Channel 16, 124 here, and trigger. This is the record button here. Channel 16. And number 125. Want this to be trigger. And then these buttons here, since this one says erase, I'm going to make it my undo button. Channel 16. Number, whatever we use, 121, 2, 3, 4, 5. This will be 126. And we're going to change this to trigger. And then since I have an undo button, I'm also going to make a redo button. And this will be 127. Trigger. Now, I'm going to add two other buttons just because of the way I like to work inside of Logic, and I'll show you how it works inside the software. But I'm going to add this button here. I'm going to make this my cycle button to toggle on cycle and to toggle off cycle. I'm going to use I'll leave that on 119. We haven't used that. And change the MIDI channel to 16. And then say trigger. And then I'm going to go here, and this button I'm going to set to set locators. And what it'll do is it'll set the locator by the selected region, and it works very good with the cycle button, and I'll demonstrate in the software. But I'm going to leave that one on 118, channel 16, trigger. So for the most part, we're straight in here. We've set up all of the buttons to do what we want to do, and we've set the channel and the continuous controller number that we want to be assigned to them. I'm going to go back to my templates page because now I want to save this as my Logic Pro template. So I'm going to go here under Edit and say Save As, and here I'm going to name it Logic Pro and say Save. And now it will actually be an option on my screen where I can get to it from the actual device here when I go to MIDI controller mode. And in the software it'll be here where I can go and edit it later, because all of these buttons are free to do pretty much anything we want them to do. These buttons have already been signed to send MIDI note information, and now we've set the transport up. I can actually turn buttons off so they don't light up. You'll notice that just about everything is lit up on my screen. So if I want to know that this button here all the way down to this button, they don't do anything, I can select them, go to the assign page, and go here and turn them off, and you'll see the light go off on them on the actual machine. Okay, so now all of those lights are off, and I know that these two buttons work and all of these things work. So you can turn off whatever you want. And it automatically basically saves what you just did, so I don't have to do Save As again, because now I have one called Logic Pro. If I change things here, it kind of default saves it to the software. So I'm going to close this out, and I'm going to bring Logic up. And I'm just in my production template where I already have it set up to control Maschine for the workflow that you'll actually see here a little bit here. If you're not familiar with it and you haven't watched my video on my new Maschine and Logic workflow, go back and check the other video, and it'll show you how to set up Maschine and Logic to work like this. But once I'm here in the software, I need to tell Logic what those buttons do, because just because I named them play, record, and things of that nature, Logic has no idea of these buttons doing those things. So you want to hold down Option and hit the letter K. When you do that, it will take you into your key commands window. This window is where you can assign new key commands, learn what key commands are to different shortcuts that you want to know, customize key commands to whatever you want them to be. You have just complete freedom in here. But I stay in this window because a lot of times, you know, someone asks me, you know, what's the shortcut for such and such? I may not know. I can just go to this window, type it in, and find out. Or I can customize the way I'm about to do now, because what I'm going to do now is assign these buttons to different shortcuts in Logic. The first one we're going to do is play. So I'm going to go up here to the search window, and I'm just going to type in the word play. And when I do that, every shortcut that's associated with the word play shows up. And this is the shortcut that I'm looking for, play or stop. By default, its shortcut is, this is a little symbol for the space bar. When you hit the space bar, Logic's playhead starts. When you hit it again, it stops. So with that selected, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to say learn new assignment. And once it says learn new assignment, I'm just going to hit the play button on my Maschine controller, and you'll see it learns an assignment. And you'll also notice that my playhead is actually playing in the software. If I hit play again, it stops. Okay, so I'm going to go back in my key commands window, and I'm going to go ahead and assign the rest of these. Let's do record next. So record comes up, and right here you see the shortcut is the letter R. I'm going to say learn new assignment, and I'm going to hit the record button on Maschine, and you hear it go into record. Now there are a few other options for record here. There's this one called record toggle. Shortcut is Shift R. What record toggle does is it turns on record and it turns off record, which is a good thing, because R by itself only turns on record. I had to, if you notice, I had to hit play to stop record from continuing. But Shift R, the issue with it is when I hit it, I have to also engage play. So if I hit record toggle, it will let you know it's ready to record, but it's waiting for you to hit play for it to start. Then you can hit record again or Shift R and it'll stop recording. So it's basically, you can choose either one you want. Just know you have to hit an additional button, just as I did with what I already assigned. The next one we'll assign this button, the restart button. And the shortcut is actually called stop. So I'm going to type in stop. Looks like I already had something in here. I'm going to delete that. Nope, that was play and stop. I'm sorry. Let me put that back. We just assigned that. Learn new assignment. That was my play button, so I had to put that back. I deleted it, now I put it back. This is the one I'm looking for. Just stop by itself. It's the return key. Learn new assignment. I'm going to make that this button. And so now that will stop and return back to bar 1. The next one we'll do is, let's do rewind. And you'll see here the rewind shortcut is the comma. Learn new assignment. Rewind. And let's do forward. Now you may have noticed in the rewind screen and in the forward screen there's something called fast forward and something called fast rewind. Now the forward shortcut and the rewind shortcut alone, they move your playhead forward by 1 bar or backwards by 1 bar. Fast forward just does it by 8 bars in one direction or the other. So I'm just going to stick with 1 bar at a time. I'm going to say learn assignment, forward. You can also, if you don't want to type in things here and you already know the shortcut for something, like for instance the shortcut for undo is Command Z. If you just click over here first and then use the shortcut on your keyboard, Command Z, it'll automatically take you to that shortcut, undo. And so with that, I'm going to say learn assignment, and I'm going to make that my erase button. Kind of makes sense, right? Didn't learn the assignment. Let's see. Learn assignment. I hit the shift button, that's why. So erase. Now that's assigned, and then redo would be Command Shift Z. So I hit that and that's right below it. And I'm going to say learn assignment, and I'm going to make that my grid button. Okay, 2 more. Let's do cycle. Cycle, the keyboard is C. So I'll say learn assignment. And this is the button, the mute button I want to assign to cycle. And then the other one is set locators. And the shortcut is actually equal. So that's it right there. I'm going to say learn assignment and set that button. Now all my assignments are learned. I can get out of here and I can kind of demonstrate what's going on. So first, you see my playhead is at bar 9. I want to take it back to bar 1. I can just hit the restart button or return button. Takes my playhead back. This button here now turns on and off my cycle. This is play. It's also stop. This is record. And remember, I had to hit play to stop record. This is fast forward by 1 bar. This is rewind by 1 bar. And the way this button works, I'll show you real fast. I'm gonna just program something into here real fast here. Let's see. So I'm gonna put it into record. Just a little 2-bar piece there. Now, if I turn on cycle, you'll see it automatically is whatever the length of my cycle was before I started making this music. So if I want my cycle to be the same length as this little 2-bar piece here, now I can use this little button, and because this region was selected, it makes the cycle the same length. And now I can just start to continue to add to that by going to another track and keep programming. So it just speeds up your workflow, makes everything easier. I don't have to keep moving my hands from Maschine over to my keyboard or using the mouse and trying to, do things. I can still make Maschine feel like what actually Native Instruments designed it to with the workflow that I like. Because when Native Instruments designed this, the whole idea was for it to feel like a piece of hardware where you didn't have to keep, clicking the mouse and using your keyboard. Everything could be done from the screen and from these buttons here. And with Maschine in standalone mode or as a plugin, and you're programming in that way inside of that sequencer, it works perfectly for that. But once you start doing some things outside of that, like the workflows that I've demonstrated in other videos, then you lose some of those features. This just brings it back, and that's kind of a workaround to make your workflow a little bit better. So hopefully this is helpful. Hopefully you liked the video. Shoot me some comments. You got any questions, shoot me the questions, and I'll answer them as soon as I get a chance. Thanks.